This is Ben Television News Roundup, a compilation of major stories in the weekend. I'm Tunde Alabi. Thank you for being part of the program today. The Prime Minister David Cameron has pledged his commitment to tackling deep social problems, boost social mobility, fight corruption, and increase home ownership. The Prime Minister disclosed this while speaking at the Conservative Party conference in Manchester.
This year, we've seen more people in work than at any time in our history. More of our children starting university than ever before. More British entrepreneurs setting up shop here than anywhere else in Europe. Wages are rising. Hope is returning. We're moving into the light, but we're not there yet. We're only halfway through. And for me, that has a very literal meaning. I can say something today that perhaps no Prime Minister has ever really been able to say before. I'm starting the second half of my time in this job. And as you know, I'm not going to fight another election as your leader, so I don't have the luxury of unlimited time. And let me tell you, I am in just as much of a hurry as I was 5 years ago. Securing our country, growing our economy, jobs, exports, growth, infrastructure. These are, of course, the stepping stones on the path to greatness for our country. And we've been laying them every day since we came to office. And we'll continue to do so. But to make Britain greater, we need to tackle some deep social problems. Problems we only just made a start on as we focused on that economic emergency that faced us. The scourge of poverty, the brick wall of blocked opportunity, the shadow of extremism hanging over every single one of us. A greater Britain doesn't just need a stronger economy, it needs a stronger society. And delivering this social reform, I believe, is entirely fitting with the great history of our Conservative Party. We've always been the optimists, the agents of hope, the leaders of change. That is why I joined it, that is why I wanted to lead it. And now, in my final term as Prime Minister, I say, let us live up to those greatest traditions of Conservative social reform. And in all the challenges we face, we'll be guided by our Conservative values. Our belief in strong defence and sound money, our belief in an enterprise economy, that if you set free the ambition that burns so deeply within the British people, they'll strike out on their own, they'll take on new workers, they'll take on the world. Our belief in equality of opportunity as opposed to equality of outcome. Not everyone ending up with the same exam results, the same salary, the same house, but everyone having the same shot at them. Now, some people will argue. Some people will say, well, these things are obvious. And I have to tell you, they're not. It becomes clearer by the day that the Labour Party has completely abandoned any notion of these ideas. So let us resolve here, at this conference, to do what we've always done, to prove those Conservative truths, to save Britain from the danger of Labour, and to rebuild Britain so it is greater still. A greater Britain. That is our goal. Now it begins by making the case for strong defence. My first duty as Prime Minister is to keep people safe. And some of the loneliest moments in this job are when you're reading those intelligence reports about plots being planned against the British people. This summer I was told that Rayad Khan and Junaid Hussain were in Syria planning terrorist attacks on UK soil. Now, of course, I asked all the proper questions. How do we stop them? Is there another way? Do we have that capability? Is it legal? I knew that whatever action I took would provoke a big debate. But my job as Prime Minister is quite simple, really. Ultimately, it's not to debate, it's to decide. And the choice I faced was this: act and we could stop them carrying out their plans. stall and we can see innocent people murdered on our streets. So I took decisive action to keep Britain safe, and that is what I will always do. And on the subject of protecting our country from terrorism, let me just say this. Thousands of words have been written about the new Labour leader, but you only really need to know one thing. He thinks the death of Osama bin Laden was a tragedy. No. A tragedy is nearly 3,000 people murdered one morning in New York. A tragedy is the mums and dads who never came home from work that day. A tragedy is people jumping from the towers after the planes hit. My friends, we cannot let that man inflict his security-threatening, terrorist-sympathizing, Britain-hating ideology on this country we love. Another big judgment call to make is when a refugee crisis confronts our world. Like most people, I found it impossible to get the image of that poor Syrian boy, Aylan Kurdi, out of my mind. We know in our hearts our responsibilities to help those fleeing for their lives. But we know too that we must keep our heads. Let's start with a simple fact. 12 million people have been made homeless by the conflict in Syria, and so far only 4% of them have come to Europe. If we open the door to every refugee, our country would be overwhelmed. The best thing Britain can do is help neighbouring countries, the Syrian people and the refugees in the camps. And when we do take refugees, to take them from the region, rather than acting in a way that encourages more people to take that dangerous, that sometimes lethal journey. And as we do this, let's remember something else. We haven't only just started caring about Syrians. We have been helping them over the past 4 years, giving more in aid to that area than any other country on earth apart from the United States of America.
In the meantime, while the Conservative Party conference was ongoing in Manchester, Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn was speaking at a conference, a rally against the government policies and cuts in the same city.
If you approach a task with the principles in hand, the principles that public services should work for the public, not for private profiteers, that we should recognise the value of every worker working in the public sector, then you begin in the right place. And I'll also say this, I've been touched by the enormous numbers of letters and messages of support that we've received in my office over the past few weeks, past 3 weeks in fact. And people are saying, don't worry about it, they're all out to attack you all the time. I say this, if we go into politics, we go into our union work, we go into our lives on the basis that what we say we hope is of value, what the other person says we hope is of value, and we engage in an intelligent, civilised debate, not responding to personal abuse and not making personal abuse. After a while, you get a hearing. And since we were elected, and I say we because, yes, I'm the person who's been elected the leader of the party, and I'm very honoured to hold that position. It's we, all of us, who won that position. We won it because we challenged the whole notion that austerity is some kind of economic necessity, when in reality it's a political choice made by the wish to see a growing gap between the richest and the poorest, wish to enrich the richest at the expense of the poorest, and slash and sell off every public service we've got to meet their supposed targets. Well, we're here to say there is a different and better way of doing things. Our Shadow Chancellor, my good friend John McDonnell, outlined all of this in a superb speech he made in Brighton last week, just a week ago today, in which he explained the origins of this austerity programme, explained what is happening, and explained these false targets that the government keeps on setting, in reality masking what is a massive cut in the living standards of the poorest, what is the selling off of state assets. This year alone, the government is selling off £30 billion worth of state assets. We know where those assets go, we know who benefits, and above all, we know who loses from those kind of sales. And so I'm very grateful to the Communication Workers Union for their support, their nomination, and their help in the election campaign. And I'm very pleased to be here today to support the Communication Workers Union in defending our Royal Mail Postal Service, in defending public sector jobs, in defending the wages and conditions of workers, and defending the very principle of public services to deliver for everybody. That is what a union is for, and I'm proud to say I've been a trade union member all my life. And I see the relationship between my party and the unions as a strong organic link. We walk down that road together because that is how the Labour Party was founded, that is how we gain a great deal of strength, and that is how union membership and Labour Party membership is going up very fast at the present time as people realise it's collective solutions to collective problems that take us forward.
Prime Minister David Cameron has said Britain needs to do more to control its border. The Prime Minister stated that the measure will ease pressure on public facilities such as schools and the NHS.
Open, modern democracy like Britain, yes, we need migration, we benefit from migration, but that migration must be controlled. And one of the problems we've had in recent years is because we have created more jobs than the rest of the European Union put together, we've seen very high rates of migration. Now, one of the ways we want to address that is to make sure that people can't immediately come here and access our generous in-work benefit system. I think that's been an additional draw to our country. But Theresa May has been an excellent Home Secretary, taken a whole series of measures like closing down the bogus colleges that weren't really colleges at all, putting a cap on migration, economic migration from outside the European Union. But it's quite clear we need to do more to bring migration into better balance, because as Theresa will say in her speech today, if you want an integrated, successful society, yes, you want immigration, but you want it at a rate where you can properly integrate people and bring them into our society, make sure that the school places are there and that the hospitals aren't overcrowded and the pressure on our country isn't too great. And I think it's absolutely right what she's saying today.
Elected members of the British Parliament have spoken in favour of the importance of the Black History Month in Britain. The British Parliament launched a new range of resources for schools to explore the Parliament's role in the changing nature of representation in the country.
It's important that we spend the time looking at Black history in all of its forms, so from inventors to creators to thespians to everything. I'd like to actually see a time when we no longer have to celebrate Black History Month, that it's celebrated constantly and continually. So I'd like to see that time when it's continually celebrated. But it's important because I learn a lot during Black History Month. I meet different people, I talk to different people, and I always learn something new about somebody I didn't know about. So it's important. Black History Month is important, but I hope there'll be a time when we'll no longer have to do it in just 1 month.
I think it's very important that Black History Month is commemorated, it's celebrated, because what it does is brings to a wider audience the knowledge about black people's contribution, not only to British society, but throughout the whole world. One of my earliest experiences when I was 12 years old, walking in the streets of Peckham in South London where I lived, was people saying to me, "We didn't win the war for you people to come here and take our homes and our jobs." And I was only a 12-year-old, so I felt very astonished by it. And the fact of the matter was, I was totally ignorant about who contributed to the war, and indeed black and ethnic minorities people's contribution. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of black and Asian people died in the Great Wars. Black History Month offers us all the opportunities to learn.
British Empire, it's very much shaped the world we live in today. And one of the legacies of empire was multiculturalism. And a consequence of the end of the empire was that a lot of people from the outskirts of the empire, if you like, came to Britain for various reasons to find work, to make a living. And I think the modern Britain that we have today is very much a legacy of that. And I think Black History Month has quite a crucial role in explaining and making people understand.
It's really important that we celebrate Black History Month, and not just for black people, but for all people, because through those stories, Rosa Parks insisting on sitting where she wanted to on the bus, Martin Luther King, Mandela, the black experience, all the people who are successful in our own country, through that, all of us, whatever the colour of our skin, we take a universal story of triumph, of social justice, of perseverance, and of achievement.
Now to the arrest of Diziani in London. The purported arrest of Nigeria's former Minister of Petroleum, Diziani Alison Madueke, in London, and subsequent rearrest and charge at a magistrate court has attracted the attention of Nigerians in the UK and Nigeria. However, every effort to track down the former minister at the Charing Cross police station, where she was suspected to report after her first arrest, was unsuccessful, and nobody till date has been able to cite or confirm the whereabouts of the former minister of petroleum.
For me, I think I'll look at it from two perspectives. If she's tried there, they'll be fair to her. They'll look at a case, hear her out, and bring all the evidence and all the facts out, and there should be, I believe, justice will be done. But on the other end, I think maybe what I would say is that after serving some time here, she should be sent back to Nigeria, to have a feel of the hardship Nigerians really go through in the prison. There's so much going on. There's so much information all over the place. From newspapers, from news, from all over the place about. And the thing is, she has never come out, officially, to deny all these things. So I mean, if she has not come out to deny, that means most probably something is really going on. But from all much information I've gathered over the years about the Minister of Petroleum, I think she has performed so poorly, and she has involved herself in so much, financial misappropriation or mismanagement.
One thing that's very sure, the way the criminal justice system works in this country is this. The Crown Prosecution Council, but now the CPS, has a Crown Prosecution Service, is fully in charge of the investigation of money laundering and corruption against Mrs. Alison Madueke. We can confirm that. The CPS, that's the Crown Prosecution Service, will want to do first a very thorough job. Doing a very thorough job will mean that they want to investigate everything that concerns this alleged corruption and money laundering against the former Minister of Petroleum, and that could take some time. They don't want to do a wishy-washy assignment. They don't want to do a job that is going to bounce back against them at the end of the day. So the process of investigation, gathering the material, and the Crown Prosecution Service putting their case together against Ms. Alison Madueke could take some time. That's number one. And number two, the way the criminal justice system works in this country is such that the CPS, that's the Crown Prosecution Service, will look at his diary just the way it works everywhere in the world when an accused appears before either magistrate or a court. Both the prosecution counsel and of course and the defense counsel, they look at your diary, they look at available date for hearing in line with the available date of the judge, and then they will arrive at a suitable time. And so adjourning the case to 2016 may not necessarily be because of the so-called illness of the former minister. It could be one that the Crown Prosecution Service wants to do a very thorough job. It could be as a result of the availability and the diary of both the Crown Prosecution Service, the Defense Counsel, or the diary and availability of the courts where the case will be assigned. Of course, you'll remember, for those who have been following the case of the former governor of Delta State, Chief James Iboli, the case against him, that's the case that involves of course, it's been dispensed of. The case about money laundering has been dispensed of, but confiscation hearing, the confiscation hearing initially in 2000 was supposed to come up in 2015, January to March 2015. It only came up twice, in January and February, and then now adjourned to sometime in 2016 January. So from January 2015, when the case of James Iboli, that's the issue of the confiscation area is concerned, now adjourned 1 year, and that's as a result of the availability of the presiding judge over the case. He's looked at his diary, he's found out, look, he will not be available again. Sacha was, that's the lead prosecution counsel, also looked at her diary, found out she will not be available, so the next available day will be sometime in 2016. This is because they want to do a very good job, and so I would not be surprised the way the criminal justice system will work in this country if such a date is given. It's not about denial of justice, about both the court and the CPS wanted to do a very thorough job. Might not necessarily got anything to do with the illness of Mr. Madueke, if that cannot be proved through a medical record.
First and foremost, and it's important than any anti-corruption issue that's got to do with Nigeria, citizens must pay vigilant, must be interested in it. In the past trial involving James Ibori, the former Nigerian governor, we mobilize Nigerians to make sure they are in court, because what you find out is that most politically exposed persons in Nigeria, they've got lots of resources. They start mobilizing people to say, look, this is a political trial, the British government should not be involved. So we need to act as a voice of the Nigerian people that do not have the means to come here and announce their presence, that the UK should not be a safe haven for alleged criminals from Nigeria or any part of the world. So one of the reasons for being here is to make sure that really, if it's true that the former oil minister is being investigated, then we have to start all over again. We have to start mobilizing Nigerians in the UK.
And with that story, we conclude the report on News Roundup this week. Thank you for being part of the program. I'm Tunde Alabi, and do have a very good week ahead of you. Bye. As part of our continued efforts to reach the African and other ethnic communities in the United Kingdom with greater impacts and create the platform to hear your silent and unheard views in this hugely growing community in the United Kingdom, our channel TV presents to you another live current affairs television program. Our focus on the program is to review and discuss issues around the diaspora community in the UK. The program offers you that unrestricted voice on issues affecting you in the UK. Join us live every Monday at 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Another business segment of Dialogue in Diaspora, 2 to 3 p.m. every Monday. But guess what? You know you can be part of the program. Just send us an email at bentelevisionuk@gmail.com. Dialogue in Diaspora, your voice, your opinion on our TV.